Welcome in to We Gon' Figure It Out.
Huh. Yeah.
So,
that's the best part of everything.
You think so?
I do what I can do when I can do it.
So this episode is titled the Let Your Kids Be Great episode. And what we mean by that is...
I think there's a bigger question. Like, for me, I always think of, like, why would someone say a parent wouldn't want their kid to be great? Every parent wants their kid to be great, right? So, what do we mean by that? We basically are saying, we're talking to, like, the idea of, like, when parents stifle, like, creativity or stop certain things for various different reasons. There's two different angles that we can kind of come across with that.
Right.
I think one of the main angles is, well, there's just different ones. You would say, I would say that sometimes it's just personal. You know, just the way, for us.
Kids getting on your nerves.
Yeah, just getting on my nerves. Like, for example, with us, you've got Braden. Like, so like ADD. So with me, if basketball's on and then you're doing stuff like, you're over there being musical, and every time a commercial comes on, you're singing the full extent of that commercial.
Right.
Or something like that. And then I'm sitting here, like, trying to watch the game, and you're still singing something that might be stuck in your head. And then Braden is jumping around in front of the TV screen. I'm going to ask him to stop jumping around in front of the TV screen.
Right.
And I know that's represented times where I think people, like, where you could say that I'm stifling his imagination or whatever, but, like, in all honesty, I'm only, like, I want him to be creative, but I'm also not wanting to be annoyed, like, while I'm watching the game.
Yes.
And it's too many different things clicking in on my sensors. Like, it's too many visuals, too much stuff going on. So, For me, that's one of the reasons why I kind of cut his imagination short there on a personal level. So, for me, it's nerves is one of the biggest reasons, because it's just, kids can do some things sometimes that can just get on your nerves.
Right.
Flat out just get on your nerves and make you say...
Hey, Pastor Kimberly.
That can just flat out make you say, all right, I'm not going to let you keep doing this. You see what I'm saying? And so, for me, that's one of the number one ways that I think I've told our kids in different areas to not, like, that I didn't want them to be great. By stifling their creativity. And I'll let them do it. I negotiate. But that is one of the ways. There's, like, some different ways to frame letting your kids be great. You know what I'm saying? Not letting your kids be great. What's one of yours?
So one of mine, and it's probably more personal to me, because it could be the situation where you have more kids than you have funds.
Money, yeah.
Yeah, more kids than money. And so I know that was the case with my mom. She couldn't afford to have us in all of these different activities and things like that. So that stifled our greatness, I think. You know, not intentionally, but she did the best she could. And so a lot of things that I wanted to do, like play an instrument or, play a sport or be great at something, I wasn't able to do, because most of the time things like that cost money. It
was an economic issue.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't that she didn't want to push you toward it. But
Absolutely.
And I think there's always a solution around it. Not saying that our parents didn't encourage this. I may have just been lazy and said no, because we had the same issues.
Right.
But, like, for instance, my mom would say stuff like, well, if you want it bad enough, go out and earn it.
Yeah.
And so, like, the lemonade stands, the different things, like, why are you raising this money? For what purpose? And if you make them if you give them some incentive to try to raise money and to do different things, then I think that usually helps the child say, okay, I know what it feels like to achieve this, and I know what it feels like and they'll own it. Like, if I'm paying for piano lessons and you don't have to pay for them at all.
Right.
You're just reaping the benefit of it.
Yes.
You're not gonna practice. You're not gonna do your part
right
all the time. Like, if something else is shiny over there,
that you have to work for.
Yeah, something else is shiny over there, they're gonna go for it.
Right.
And so, like, if they're invested into it, they're invested into their future a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I think back to one of the more personal issues.
Hey, Beverly.
One of the more personal issues for me, when it comes to it, is the way I was raised. And I think I see that throughout all communities, black, white, and and especially like I see it a lot amongst friends that I have that were raised in other countries, and their traditions are strong, and they're trying to stick to their traditions while adjusting to American traditions. So they raise their kids out of this is the way it's always been done.
Right.
And so I think that's one of the bigger things to really kind of look at as to why we do things the way we do it.
Environmental.
What kind of inspired the topic for today's show? When I was driving down the street, I saw this little boy walking with his mom next to the across from the Blue Dome Diner, and he's kind of pretending like it's a tightrope, like as he's walking up on the little guardrail beam, and she's letting him do it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about like being told, "Boy, get down,
get
like,
down,
yeah,
right.
like get down," and that's where I would come in. Like that's what I was told. So like second nature, I'm just gonna tell my kid, like if Braden gets up there, boy, get down before you hurt yourself.
So that's what I was getting ready to ask. Do you think that sometimes parents don't let their kids be great for safety issues?
Yes, because, and I think there's often times when I feel like when it comes to the safety issue, I think a lot of times this is one of the things we do in the community, in our communities, where we'll try to discipline them ahead of time so that authority won't discipline them.
Right.
And when you do that, it creates this system to where when discipline does have to be applied through a boss, through the police or something like that, they've already been punished for this already. And so it's kind of harder for someone to receive like that type of correction.
Right.
Because it's not viewed as correction. It's viewed as punishment.
Yeah.
And I think on the parenting level, it's important for us to recognize that we have a bigger job to correct than we have to punish. You know, because that's what we want to do. We want to get them prepared for the real world. We want to get them ready, but you can't always do that through just flat out like here's the most negative consequence. Sometimes there will be a bad consequence, but how you frame it is going to be the difference between correction and showing them the right way and it just being just straight up, punishment.
Okay. So an example of that I was talking to my dad about some things, and I was like, how do you not stifle a kid, but you correct them? And he's like, it's about training them. And that is so true, because when you train them, you're not telling them, you're going and actually showing them. So that may be going outside and giving an example of picking something up. Like if you told them to do something, they didn't do it, and then you come back for the correction.
Yeah.
It's about going and saying, this is what I wanted you to do, and taking that thing and putting it away or whatever, and then allowing them to follow suit.
Yeah.
And that's the training part of it, instead of, boy, I told you, the yelling. And that's because I think our parents were so tired.
Yeah.
They were overworked, underpaid, so tired that they had, they resulted to yelling or quick consequences like a spanking or something like that, instead of actually training.
And I think for me, that's part of one of the reasons why you'll see that I struggle with. I struggle with corporal. Like I struggle with punishment, being dolled out based off of a lot of times I feel that my emotion is behind it.
Right.
And if my emotion is there, I have to be very obedient to to being angry but sinning not. I have to be very aware that I do understand that there is a time and a place for spanking and those type of things, and I don't do it that often.
No.
And it has to be an extreme kind of situation, but I do recognize a lot of times it's like, man, for me, if I put my hands on a belt or even if I was to pop this child or do anything like that while I'm angry, I understand that I have crossed the line between abuse or that line between punishment and actual correction. Like at this point, I gotta get up. And then to kind of go back to the original, one of the points you were making about the training part, sometimes it's difficult for us to get our kids to do some of the things that we want them to do when we haven't learned to really articulate or put a language to it.
Okay.
So there's times where I may ask Braden to do this, and I can visualize what I'm asking him to do, or even Devon, or any of the kids, but I can't really say it the right way. And so they're kind of confused on the language.
Right.
And when they're confused on the language, then we're both confused and frustrated.
Right.
Frustrated is code word for mad or angry.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? But we're both, and now they're frustrated, we're frustrated, and then it becomes their will versus mine.
Yeah.
And
then their will never wins.
Right, because I'm the bigger one. Yeah, I'm the grown up, so I'm gonna enforce my will on. And then they get used to their will being stifled, like their drive, like their thoughts, their things. And because there comes a point in time when, you know, they will have to grow up and get a voice. And I don't want them to feel as though, you never want your children to feel as though they have to rebel to get the voice.
Yeah.
And that's what I see.
Man, that is great.
Like when correction comes, it's like, I'm going to give you your time to talk. It's important to do that, but that's one of the hardest things in the world to do.
It is, and that's because we've been trained differently.
Yeah, and the way children express themselves is different for what a child may think is acceptable language.
Yeah.
And, you know, because they watch your interactions, and that's the fact that they're a mirror is the most embarrassing thing in the world. Because I really look at the fact that if my child has a smart mouth, I have to think about, do I have a smart mouth with my boss? Do I have a smart mouth with my pastor? Do I have a smart mouth with my guy? Like,
do you have a smart mouth with the kid?
With the kid, with my wife, with my husband, like all those different areas. It's like when my kid watches me interact, does he see this as an acceptable way to talk?
Yeah. He
learned ABC from me.
Right.
Because I repeated the ABCs to him. He learned how to speak because he watched me speak.
Right.
So I can't be upset with anyone but myself.
Right.
if he's popping off at the mouth like that. So it does. That's the part that makes it even more frustrating when it's like it keeps coming back to you as the parent.
That's right. But we have to be adult enough and mature enough to recognize that. Yeah. And I think our parents didn't do that. It was just this is the way because I say so. Yeah. And Annie said they do mirror us a lot of the times, and that's so true.
There was an example that we were talking about off air that we won't go into the full detail of, but you were telling me of a child you knew of that their parents let them write on the walls. Yeah. And I think there has to be, for me, because that's just so beyond me, but I think there has to be, I don't care how much money we would have. Mm-hmm. If we can buy the paint that's washable and all that, I don't care. There has to be a boundary that tells them you take care of what you have. Okay. But that's a result of us growing up broke.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
But if my kids grew but I want it's some beauty in growing up broke. Like, it's some beauty in the struggle because you do appreciate things.
You truly do. And I think there's pros and cons to everything. But let me tell you about this little boy now. Where does he go to school? I mean, where has he graduated from college? Harvard.
Yeah, I figured.
Because his parents, they allowed him to be great. Yeah. Simple and to the point. And I was babysitting and I'm like, oh my gosh, this little boy has just written all over this wall. What am I supposed to do with that? So she comes in and I'm nervous because I'm thinking I hadn't kept my eyes on him. And she was like, oh, he's allowed to do that. We allow him to do that. He's allowed to write on the walls and we can clean it off. But this is his art wall. And so I'm looking at this and she was like, she said, did he write on any other walls? And I said, no. And she said, he knows that this is his art wall.
So they assigned him a wall.
So they assigned him a wall. Release. So I thought that was brilliant.
A release for his creativity, and I think that is a good thing. That if you have the means to do it, open up a window for creativity for your children. But here's one of the key factors: open up a window for yourself. Yeah. If the idea that you have to lead by example is there, you have to open up a window of creativity for yourself. If your kids see that you have a zone and a place in which you go for your creative outlet, then they will know and respect their boundary because they see you with it. It's the same thing like, if your kids know you have a prayer room, they're going to grow up and probably have one. Right. That type of thing. If they will follow suit with you. And so I think that's one of the things that we have to do is allow our kids to see that. I think, like, for example, with Navon here lately, he knows he should exercise. Mm-hmm. If he sees me doing it, he's like, okay, well, I know I got to do it. He knows the capacity is there to do it. And so I think that he takes on that challenge.
Right.
You know, like he was joking yesterday saying he's a cyclist now because we got him a bike.
Right.
But I think that that's a key. That is definitely a key factor, is opening up. Now, I'm not going to create a coloring wall for anybody. I don't care.
See? Can't let your kids be great. Come on.
It's just, yeah, I guess we could.
Well, let me tell you.
I will buy an easy, like, Nyla's a talented artist. She just won an award, and people are buying her art already.
Right.
I'm not buying a wall. I may let her draw a mural for us, and I'll pay her, but that's different. You know what I'm saying? But I can't do the wall.
Okay, but let me ask you this though: is your reason for not buying a wall because this isn't your house?
No, we're about to buy a house, and I can promise you this: there will be no art wall in the house.
Well, our kids are too big for that now.
But see, that's the thing. We're gonna have more kids in the future, and when we have more kids, there will be no art wall.
Why not?
Mallory gets no art wall.
But what if that's her? You know, that's her creative thing. You don't designate a piece for her.
What I will do is I'll buy her an easel. She's got to meet me halfway. Kids have to meet.
Okay. So if you buy the easel, but she still, writes on a wall.
Yeah, then I can be patient and loving.
Okay.
And bring her back to the easel.
Well,
and apparently maybe
maybe
that child wouldn't see me drawing on if she doesn't see me draw on an easel, if she doesn't see me have an area that I stay restricted to, if she sees me out in the garage on the treadmill, she knows the treadmill's mine and that's where I run. And she doesn't see me run anywhere else in the house, she catches on.
Okay.
So I guess that kind of goes back to the same point. The other area, I said,
Sherry.
I was saying it's the way we're raised. Mm-hmm. If we weren't raised with those values, if we weren't raised with, if we were raised broke, you know what I'm saying, that's a good thing. It's accepting that the next generation will have a different value on things. Right. And that's hard for me. We just brought our son a pair of shoes that was expensive, and I almost died. And I had to learn to accept.
Yeah, he's growing up.
And it's weird to have it's not weird, it's a blessing, but we have the means.
Yeah.
But that was sort of like, yeah, but it's just not of me. Like, I didn't want to do it. So
we can't let our kids be great.
So those are ways that you end up stifling your children's creativity, their growth, and expectation. I remember there was a line from a Tupac song that changed my thoughts about parenting. And I remember hearing it and listening to it a lot when Nyla was first born. Mm-hmm. And he said, it was just this one line where he said, raise your kids better than you was and see what it does. And that line kept bothering me, like, because it
stayed with you.
Yeah, because it doesn't discredit the fact that my parents did their best job, and I feel like I was raised great.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they didn't do good.
Yeah,
but I need to raise my children better and see. So in every area, I need to take it to the next notch. Mm-hmm. My mother loves me. She's proud of me. And she raised me to the best of her ability. And my father, too. Definitely credit him for a lot. And they never once stifled, like, my creativity. They were always there telling me I could be whatever it is I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. I've never had anyone put a limitation on me. So I always tried to never put a limitation on the kids. So that part I've got down. But it's just weird to know that could come in different means.
So you don't think we put a limitation on Braden when he runs around the house?
No, I think that's just outright disrespectful. No,
what?
But no, it isn't that. It isn't that. I would say it all depends on where it goes. Mm-hmm. It's the difference between him staying outside. If he wants to be a basketball player, him putting a tangible, actual basketball in his hand, mm-hmm. and him going outside and dribbling excessively till 2:00 in the morning or whatever. If that's what he wants to be, that's it. If he's out there tossing the baseball around and figuring a way to practice his fielding, I want that.
What you mean?
I want dedication, but something like the imaginary basketball thing he does, that doesn't help his skills. In fact, that makes him worse.
Let the kid be great. Oh my goodness.
All right, so.
Oh boy.
That's kind of where we come from. It's just one to do really do a self-evaluation when you think about the things you may be telling your kids to not do, and kind of ask yourself, why am I telling them no?
Yeah.
If why would I tell my son he can't walk and pretend like it's a tightrope?
Yeah.
Why would I tell my son any of these different things? Is it personal? Is it me? Because a lot of times it is. You're getting on my nerves.
Right.
Or is it, well, I'm used to saying that because good parenting says that. My mom said it. My dad said it. So I should say it. Or is it, and I think whether you got kids or not, that's good to know with your nieces and nephews too. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of times people will criticize young parents.
Yeah.
And ridicule young parents into feeling like they're doing things wrong. Mm-hmm. And especially if you already have raised kids or your kids are older and you have a younger sibling come along and they have kids and then all of a sudden you know better. Like I've seen people do that and I'm like, like your kids are just as bad. Like why are you getting after her? Or and so couldn't have been me. Like it was you like 3 years ago. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we are bad about that.
And I never really had to deal with that too much because even though I was the younger sibling, I kind of had my kids a little bit after my siblings had theirs.
Right.
And so I didn't have to deal with too much criticism. And then, like I said, once again, just never have dealt with a lot of outward criticism. But I've known myself to even fix my mouth to kind of say, not, as though I could have done something better to a younger parent.
Right.
And so we have to encourage young parents to let their kids be great, encourage them. And you gave me a good example of someone you said kind of was criticizing a parent just recently, a younger parent, and then she had to come back and apologize because she recognized, she was like, you know what, I was out of line.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
What's that
I think
say?
so too.
Gary.
What if his dream was to be a poet or something like that? Do you let him or encourage him to be something better? It's one thing to let them have bug dreams, but if their dreams were too small.
I think that's the craziest thing because for me,
That's a good question.
I don't know how to measure a kid's dream because I don't know if they'll be the one that'll take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, I cannot think of the guy who plays Johan on Blackish.
Yes, I don't know his name.
Yeah,
though.
like, okay, so, like, he took poetry to another, like, he gets paid well.
Yeah.
Jackie Hill Perry, like, she gets paid on another level.
Yeah.
Like, you
have to think about Maya Angelou and people like that. Who
it can be taken, but we know that the path, the scary part as a parent is we know 90% of the path, 90% of the time, the path that is going to be really rough, and we don't want them to go down a rough path.
Right.
And that's why we encourage them to go to school and get a degree so they can have a backup plan. But a lot of cases, kids don't want a backup plan.
Yeah, this is what they want to do.
Yeah. And I didn't want a backup plan. I wish I would have gotten one.
But Gary, to your point, I think that you should just give them additional dreams to think about. Don't stifle the ones that is really on their heart, whether we think it's small or not, because it's not small to them. But, and I think you may be coming at that from the standpoint of maybe financially thinking that it may not, fare well for them in the long run, but just encourage them to add things to that. Yeah, you can be a poet and you can also be this and you can also be that.
I think you gotta find what within their dream, on their dream with them. Mm-hmm. And as a parent, find out what the stability is for that dream. So like what I mean is like there's some things, some stable thing or some things that can make their dream stable.
Right.
So what's gonna be the support beams for that dream? So you want to become a rapper, fine. Let's learn business law, or let's learn something else so that you're one. Let's learn business in general so that you can know things about contracts, so you can know things about those different things, so that you're not supported so that no one else, so that you can be self-supported. Like you don't have to be the type of, or self-sufficient.
To be dependent on someone else.
Because like Nyla wants to be an artist. But
look, he said, who's going to take care of me when I get old?
Nyla wants to be an artist, and she's a brilliant artist, and she has the capacity to be a cartoonist right now.
Yeah.
But she, without me pushing it down her throat, one of the things that she knows now is, well, she's going to have to go down the path of art, of being an architect or something of that nature, because that's where the degree is going to be, where at the end of the day, she's going to be able to make some money doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's a good comment. She said, we also, as parents, make it look easy. So the kids think life is automatically going to happen without smart work.
That's true.
That is true.
And I think that's an insecurity from my lack of education sometimes.
Yes.
Because I don't want my kids to think they will be able to get to the level that I'm at, because it may not be their call to do what I do the way that and honestly, for my particular job or skill set for what I do, it took actual real life hurt and pain to meet the qualifications.
You're right.
And I don't want them to have to go through that. I would rather them walk in and say that they can become a pastor. It's all about, and with my particular vocation, it's all about God's anointing. But I would rather them go in with some sort of schooling that helps qualify them to walk through the door than, oh, you grew up in this type of environment,
right?
Or you seen this, or you gone through that. I definitely don't.
And I think for me, see, my kids have seen me go back to school,
right?
So they know that I'm kind of struggling through it. You know that, I mean, I'm making good grades. I'm not saying that, but it's difficult when you have a family and you have a job and you have all these things.
Exaggerate it to them too. Be like, oh Lord, this test is so hard. Even though it was easy, just like, oh, not too much to where they'd be scared of college, but you know.
But I want them to, you know, not take the path that I took. Yeah. I tried it out the gate, but it just didn't work that way. Yeah. You know what I mean?
We have to rethink education too for our children. I think one of the biggest things that hurt us is that we feel that we're limited by what society gives us. There's a reason that these charter schools and other things are popping up, and we need to take advantage of them, and we need to try to get our children involved. And just because it bucks the typical system, I would definitely say that that's no reason to ignore a charter school or an alternative learning environment, because for Braden, that's my number one goal, is to figure a way to get him out of this system and get him into a system that's gonna feed into his creativity. He can sit down and do brilliant work on the piano. Yeah. He needs to be somewhere where that's the primary thing he does. Yeah. Because the truth of the matter is, that's when it does. I don't believe he has the ADD diagnosis. Doesn't matter when he's out there doing that. Right. It's sort of like ADD doesn't matter when I'm running. You know, it doesn't matter when I'm doing the things that I love to do, that God has gifted me to do. It doesn't. And I think that's one of the things that I want to see for him is, and I've been looking at it and I'm like, I know he's wanting to go into the same system because he's seen his brother. He's like, I want to go to Carver and then Booker T, but that's he sees it because he wants to do what his brother did. That system's good for his brother, right? But for him, you know, it's like, I want to see him go somewhere where it's not all about just the books, where he's able to just go free. And we've been telling our kids for years that, well, that's what college is for. Well, you know, I believe that they can have something better ahead of time. So we need to also, as a country, rethink what we're doing with education and how we're doing it. That's one of the reasons why the system's going broke too. The education system here is, and you know, because of the fact that it's nothing. You know, the creativity stifled. Teachers aren't encouraged. The test or
I mean, they don't even want to be there anymore because they're not benefiting from it, and then you're dealing with difficult children. No, I'm serious. It's like I'm dealing with these kids. I'm overloaded, underpaid.
What did Gary say?
It's hard to concentrate on anything you don't enjoy. That's not ADD. It's disinterest. Yeah, that's true. And then she says, speaking as an adult with ADHD, I was able to attain a master's degree. Braden will be successful, and I love the alternative approach that you guys are looking for him.
My boss has a master's and has worked on another. I believe he's still working on it, and he has. You know, he has it, and it works for him. Now, hold a regular conversation with him. We're gonna be 5 different places, But when it comes to schooling, he can lock in and focus.
Right.
And it just takes him a while, you know. And so he'll be up late nights and he'll work hard. And I think Braden will probably pick up on that just the same way Navon did, because Navon had that same diagnosis.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's
let me read this comment about charter.
All right.
And he said the bigger part of charter is what we impart in home life. It is our responsibility to challenge each child based on their gifts, starting with home life. And, exactly right. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the bigger. I think that's one of the big things to make sure that we think about. You know, how do we make education a fun thing?
Yeah.
How do we reframe education in our households? How do we reapproach things to make life greater for our children, so that the things that breed greatness in society, that we make sure that they're still attached to it and not completely detached from it.
Right.
How do we still associate our kids with creativity and still introduce ourselves into creativity, because maybe we didn't have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an important thing. So
yeah.
All right, you feel good about that?
That was pretty good.
All right. So now, before we close out the show, I'm gonna let you. We said we weren't gonna do it, but we just came back to it like a dog to his mama, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a better example.
Whoa.
Sometimes I just go too biblical. It's the best for me.
Oh,
but not like we gotta. I mean, I'm gonna let you talk about the Thunder, because I know you're not specifically even the Thunder. I'm gonna ask you one particular question about Westbrook. What is your case for MVP?
My case for MVP for Russell Westbrook is the fact that he has single-handedly willed his team to a playoff spot. And he's not 7th or 8th. He's 6th. And, you know, to me, by losing all of the pieces that he lost and still, you know, putting the team on his back and still having a historic season, you know, breaking records and averaging a triple-double and, you know, just doing all the things that he's doing night in and night out, not complaining, not saying I need another playmaker, not saying, you know, all these different complaints and things like that. I think he's just accepted what has been given to him, and to his point, he said, you know, I'm truly blessed.
Yeah,
I'm truly blessed to have the opportunity to play the game that I love. I think he understands that it's a privilege to be in the position that he's in.
I think that there was a lot of things in the media today that kind of pointed to the fact that the reasons that it should be Harden and more than likely will be James Harden is because his team is winning more. He's had a more efficient, you know, season. He shot 40, you know, I think it was 40 less shots or something of that nature. Like, okay. So he shoots the ball less. It's just he's playing more efficiently and his team is winning. It's a top 3 team in the West, which says a lot because the West is still, you know, has the edge of the more stronger division.
But let me run this by you. Is that a James Harden thing or is that a coaching thing?
I think that
because if you think about it, you know, they're thinking about giving D'Antoni Coach of the Year, and that's because of his system. You know what I'm saying? Like
analytics that was set up by, because they also are at risk. I mean, they should also have GM of the year as well. I think his name is Maury. It starts with an M, mm-hmm. But. You know, they did some brilliant things by signing, you know, Nene in the offseason and getting Lou Williams, you know, and, you know, even just the idea of switching, you know, Harden to point guard. You know, it's a proven thing that if you know, you got an oversized point guard, it's like saying, okay, we're going to recreate the Magic Johnson, you know, a Magic Johnson-like figure, you know, someone who can shoot and do these different things. I guess for me, I don't like the system that says you have to do it this way. Like, I don't like the fact that it's set up to say that James Harden or that the winner of the MVP has to be a person that wins. I get that, but
he is winning because if that's the case, then James Harden is still 3rd. So you know you got 2 other.
That means by association, Steph Curry should get it 3 years in a row, or Kevin Durant should get it. Should get it. So it should be, or it
or
should be
Kawhi Leonard, somebody that's ahead of him,
who plays on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
So the MVP really should be Kawhi Leonard, 100%, or LeBron James, because if he pulls off number one, or even Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
So
because he's number, they're
going
number
back
one.
and forth.
Yeah.
So it could be.
Harden is kind of shooting himself in the foot by his comment.
Yeah, his comment definitely to me said, okay, you're giving it up to Kawhi Leonard because he's on both ends of the floor. And so you can't and he's beat you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's what he didn't realize he was really saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it was a shot directly at Westbrook, but I think it's just more or less him being tired of being passed over, because last year he should have got votes. It shouldn't have been a unanimous, but because everyone was, in awe of what Steph Curry was doing, that's why they gave it to him. But for me, I say he's the MVP just because as a fan, I'm tired of every sport that we watch, they forget about us, and all of these MVPs and all these other things aren't fan choice awards. They treat us like we're stupid, like we don't know, like it's just like they just want our money. They want us to buy the papers. They want us to buy the tickets. The writers and the owners alike just think that we don't have a say in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you go to other arenas and people are chanting MVP or Westbrook,
come on,
that tells me that's the league MVP, because who cared about the Phoenix Suns game versus the Thunder, or the Nuggets game versus the Thunder at the end of the season?
They weren't even selling out games until he came.
He sold out both of those arenas because people wanted to see the potential of history being made.
Right.
That's an MVP to me,
right.
because people want to see him.
I mean, he's bringing more money in than any player this year.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Gotta give him the MVP.
So I think that's I think that's the reason why I say
on that alone.
Yeah.
The league themselves should be honoring him with the MVP because of the
cut the check.
The check.
All right, so that's the show for today. Real quick before we get out of here, you haven't eaten meat in what, 3 weeks? 4 weeks? 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
You doing good with it?
I'm doing good with it.
And the real key thing about this is, with this challenge, is nobody's weighing them, so you're not weighing yourself.
No.
So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do it because you feel better. How's it making you feel better to not eat meat, though? Because a lot of people would say you need your proteins, you need all these other things. Mm-hmm. Meat isn't all that bad. And there could be a whole segment of people that could say it's actually bad for you.
I agree, Annie.
How do you feel about it?
I feel more energized. I'm not, weighed down. It seems like, since I've stopped eating meat, I'm more lively. I'm more pepped up. I have a lot more energy. I can go outside and run and play with the kids. And, we were out there yesterday on the bikes. And, I've been out there, throwing the baseball with Brayden a little bit and all that stuff. And just kind of not zapped out by the time I get home from work. It's like my mental health is good, right? You know what I mean? Like, I feel more focused. I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I know that I'm losing weight. I can tell.
I think,
and that's just based off of, changing my diet.
I think one of the key things that trainers may not want to say it to you, or other people may not want to ever say this, but sometimes the battle to get back in good health, it does start with you and not so much the actions. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to be working out with this intensely, you probably would have a bigger gain, but you would probably hate every minute of it and can't wait to stop doing it. If you gradually get into it the way that you're comfortable, you can develop a lifestyle that'll last, opposed to a fad diet or just some sort of fad exercise program. So, all right, so that's the show. Make sure you go out there. Make sure you go out there and you help some kids be great. Encourage them. Encourage parents, especially younger parents. Encourage them. Let them know that they're doing a good job.
Yeah. Sure.
And make sure that if you've got a show topic that you want us to cover, make sure you leave it in the comments and we'll check it out and we'll talk about it next week, because God brings us inspiration from week to week on what to talk about.
He does.
But sometimes we don't, like if you tell us to do one, we got it covered. Yeah. So we're going to figure it out, y'all.
All right.